here for. Okay. ATO. Wonderful. Okay. So, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Craig Kerr from the Australian Taxation Office Speakers and Seminar Area. Craig will be presenting a presentation around being a BAS agent. So, and at the back, or actually at the front here, it's Bronwyn Mitchell, and she is a relationship manager, but she's not speaking tonight, but she's available to make appointments to come to see you personally in your home office or your client's office to go through the BAS agent portal individually. Because as you know, the BAS agent portal has a lot of confidential information on there, so she's not allowed to show one up on here. But I'm sure she'll be able to answer some general questions tonight if you need to. But more importantly, she would love to come to you personally, which she's going to come to my place soon in a few weeks. So please welcome Craig Kerr.
Thanks very much. And this is the most difficult bit of the night for me, making sure I can get this working. I hope. Look, thank you very much for inviting me. I will need to get help. No, I won't. So look, just briefly about myself. I've been in the tax office 37 years, which is a bit sad. It's different to my one. Does anyone say that?
Slideshow from beginning.
From beginning?
Yeah, that's
Right, look, yes. Oh, you want to report there? Well, no, I don't want that to get recorded. Because, well, look, I'll just say, nothing's binding on the Commissioner. I don't know if you realise this, but oral advice isn't binding, so if you do want anything in writing, if you do want anything in writing, it's got to be in writing. So this is just a general guidance and information for you. So just about myself, so I've been in the education area of the tax office since GST started back in 1999-2000, and actually I was an auditor before that, but after being in education, it's a lot better being in education than it is being an audit. So as a result of that, I've stayed in there, and it's actually been very interesting because of the whole range of changes that have happened. And the big things back in 2000 when things started for tax practitioners and GST and BAS and all that, was the tax agent portal which came into place in 2002, which is very important to look at because where are you now with the BAS agent portal in 2010, 2011, and you're probably at the stage where the tax agent portal was in 2002, 2003. These sort of products that we introduced in dealing with the tax office electronically are a work in progress. So the BAS tax agent not having running balance accounts. And then 3 or 4 years down the track, they built the system and they do that. So there's some things there, some capacities that you haven't got at the moment, but hopefully they will happen. And I say hopefully because when I look at the administrative matters that I'm going to cover, and I actually have been lucky enough that I had to put this together for all the speakers in the different states as one of my particular areas, because I actually teach TAFE too, so because I teach BAS business, process business tax and BAS, I got to do this and put this particular package together. But why I say that is because the administrative matters come from the area that manage tax practitioners, and I would think, well, look, this happened with tax practitioners, why doesn't it happen automatically for you and you get all the things that the tax agent's done? But then they tell me there's IT and there's systems and having capacity and having access and all that is where there is the problem. So while the system at the moment will not allow you to do everything that you would want and doesn't do as much as tax agents are in that same position. I just think that they tell me that it's a bit more difficult because tax agents have got access to something and you've got access with a different access, there is a little bit of difficulty in doing all these sort of things. But all I would just say is it is a work in progress in doing this because the tax office does need you to work with them electronically. So administratively, the most critical thing, and look, there's 15,000 BAS agents who are registered currently. Surprisingly, only 60% lodge electronically. Now that's very surprising, I think, because tax agents 98% lodge electronically. Now the problem is that maybe BAS agents are a really different group. You could have between 1 and 250 clients or something like that. So maybe a lot of them haven't gone and done things electronically. because of the fact that you've only got a small number of clients, so you're still doing things by paper. But the important thing is to get extensions, to get all the things the tax office wants you to do. You do need to have a digital certificate and be registered through the ATO system. And I would think, because I know one of my friends who's involved in this particular area in the tax practitioner, the tax agent, TPALs, I can't even remember what they call it.
Practitioner and lodgement strategy.
Tax practitioner and lodgement strategy. That particular area is concerned that there is a lot of people doing things by paper because the tax office doesn't like paper. It is very expensive for us to do anything in paper form. Electronically is the way to go, and I would think like they got with tax agents, where there's very few tax agents who do anything now by paper. They'll want BAS agents to be in that particular process too, because of the functionality and the fact that you can deal with the tax office 24/7. But currently, as I said, it's surprising that only 60% of people are lodged electronically. So it will be a very big push in the future for those particular agents to have electronic lodgement. So they do want you to have OSCE and to have a digital certificate to be the way of getting into the system, so you can do your activity statements. They want the 24/7 access that is allowable for you. They want you to receive confirmation so you can view your client's registration, so you can print details. You can communicate with us through a secure mailbox if you've got particular issues relating to your business activity statement. With our education too, we are, apart from doing a seminar program, we're also doing webinars. Did anyone go to the webinar that we had on Monday? One person did. I'll better talk to you later then. He's had a smile on his face. We are looking at doing a whole range of things differently with education and BAS agents. Because people are scattered in different areas, it's hard to get to our seminar program that we're doing for BAS agents. There's a whole lot of other products and services that we try to offer to BAS agents. So importantly for the electronic commerce interface, there's functionality to lodge super reports, pay-as-you-go withholding. Now, with the annual reports and some of those things, there's problems there where you can't get access at the moment. So there is particular problems. But it will be long-term, the aim of the particular system is that you'll be able to do things all electronically through electronic commerce interface. Now, lodgement information, it's important that and the big incentive for you to do things electronically, that if you've got a person who lodges quarterly, then if you are lodging electronically, you get a 4-week extension of time. So the critical thing about why they want you in the system is so you can get that 4-week extension of time. You also get lodgement concessions for lodging pay-as-you-go withholding summary for those not closely held concessions. So there are a lot of benefits that you will get by doing things electronically. We'll only grant BAS concessions where you lodge documents electronically. You can also get extension of time to... you can also use that for payment arrangements in those particular circumstances. And it's important that you do keep your signatures and your declarations through OSCE, that you do keep them secure, because the security of that system is critical for dealing directly with those professionals who are tax agents or BAS agents. Now, with the portal, you can add clients, so there's particular benefits there. There are problems with access if a tax agent also has access. Now, the system will only allow one external person to have access. So this issue that BAS agents have been telling me about and been telling the tax practitioner board, the TPAL's area about that you've got access one day, the tax agent gets access, and then you lose your particular access. Now, my understanding is that that probably will not be changing. There's not going to be an allowable system where you can have dual access. You can only have it one person can have it, so one person has it, one person can. So I believe, that's just an issue that they do know is a big problem for BAS agents, and they are working through that. Now, administration, there was some things too about payment arrangements. So if you've got outstanding tax on your related to your business activity statement, there's currently a 12-month interest-free charge period where you can have a payment arrangement and you won't have to pay any interest on those particular arrangements. Now, have people done those particular arrangements?
Yeah.
It is very good to do those particular arrangements if you've got a client with arrears, because if you go to the automated system and you put in you've got a client who's got $10,000 worth of debt, they put in an offer to pay $5 a week for the next 50 years, the system automatically defaults to the minimum amount that the system will allow. So one of the good things, if you've got a repayment arrangement that won't be acceptable, the system will default. Now, for the general interest-free charge period, you do need to contact the officer directly, but you can use the automated system to work out what will be the minimum amount which will be acceptable. So it is very important to look at those situations for clients. You can also get lodgement deferrals to the clients who want extensions of time to pay. So those administration arrangements are very important to look at. And you can get some assistance on that when you look at the small business assistance area on the website, which I'll show you towards the end of the presentation. Now, has anyone got any questions on the administration before I move on? As I said, electronically and dealing with this, and I know that there's a lot of issues there that aren't working well at the moment, but I just look at anything the tax office does, things like a pre-filling report. You know how you now get pre-filling reports? The first 2 years of that, there was only 150,000 pre-filling reports. This financial year, there was 5.4 million. The tax office looks at doing all these things electronically, not for this year or next year or the year down the track, but long term, how things will actually operate. And because BAS agents are a very, very new area, they will be looking to develop the system so it does become more automated and does ease things into you. I just want one other thing. When I first did this for tax agents, I actually went around and did the stuff about the portal and the understanding of the portal for version 1, 2 and 3. Then they put the relationship managers on just to do that, so I haven't done any of the upgrades from that particular period. But the reason they did that is because the importance of the relationship managers. So Bronwyn, who doing these things for tax practitioners, will now be looking at an expanded role in doing this for particular BAS agents. So it's about giving you some online assistance, especially in this particular area, because there's an office in Newcastle to give you that particular assistance from a field officer. And the relationship managers, their best access for you is to do the electronic online products that the tax office has got.
I just had a question about the overhead that you had before that one, about the BAS agent, tax agent. And just wanted to get clear about if the BAS agent has registered the client through the portal and then the tax agent goes on and registers the client, can the BAS agent then register the client again? Is it a swinging thing or is it once it's done?
It's a swing. And look, I mean, I just think that there probably just needs to be some organisation between the BAS agent and the tax agent. But if they're both putting in, and when one puts in, the other one goes off, and that's a particular problem with the particular system. So, look, I would think practically, I would just make, that's how the system operates. I just think if there are tax agents who are doing needing the same information, which I'm not sure why they've got the same information, if they're not doing the BAS electronically watching, but you probably just need to be able to talk to that particular tax agent about that happening. So I know it's a frustrating thing for BAS agents.
I had an issue the other day where we had a client that wanted to do a management. We don't have access to the integrated client account, as you alluded to the fact that that's going to come hopefully in the future. So we couldn't find out what a reasonable, they already had an arrangement, and we couldn't find out what a reasonable arrangement would be because we didn't know what arrangement had already been made. Neither did the client.
Oh, right.
To go back to the tax agent, they had to go into the portal, re-deal with it, go back. We then had to go back into the portal, re-deal with it, to lodge deferred payments or whatever. My question is, though, that the person at the tax office who I actually phoned at the time said to me that we actually had the integrated client account, that once you register on there, as a BAS agent, you actually get the rights to the integrated client account, but we can't see it.
No.
No, we don't, but we can't see it. We do actually officially get the rights, so we can discuss it, but we don't see it.
Yeah, we can get a copy and send out.
You get it sent
You
out.
get it sent out. That's right.
But that takes a period, a fairly lengthy period of time and everything. And look, I know the tax office doesn't like doing that because that's very labour intensive for us to do that particular information. It's a very big time lag. But look, as I said, that's the things that I know that they are working out to give you that better access. Yes.
Why doesn't the ATO think about having two accesses, one for the tax agent and one for the BAS agent?
Well, and I think the reason is that if you've got, for some reason, this is probably a very tax office thing, if you've got one access, you've got control who's got that access. If you've got two people accessing the same thing, for some reason, for a system issue, that you can't do it because apparently the controlling mechanism is lost if you've got two people accessing that same information.
But if you go to your clients and you use their BAS agent portal, they have access to the integrated account.
Yeah, but but you're using their BAS agent portal.
Their business.
Their business portal, yeah. Still.
So you're using this. Look, all I know is...
And that's probably why you've got only 60% BAS agents lodging online, is because they don't see the integrated account balance.
Yeah.
They're watching through their clients.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, but I'm thinking that a lot of those who would be lodging through the clients wouldn't be BAS agents because they don't need that access.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a whole range of people
The
there
portals.
that are bookkeepers but not BAS agents because they don't want the registration process. So the 15,000 I'm looking at with registration of the 15,000 who are lodging through a BAS agent portal, not the business portal. But, and I've got no idea how many numbers would be there in that other area out there.
When are we as BAS agents going to have a facility where we can lodge multiple payment summary annual returns for our clients?
Well, look, I believe that will be something that will be coming because when I talk about pay-as-you-go at home, there's a big encouragement for employers to do that. And look, it causes a lot of problems to the tax office in not getting the things in electronically because with pre-filling, they want someone to lodge a tax return, that information being in the system. So if it goes in manually, it goes in very late. Well, if it goes in electronically, it's better for our system. So I would think for priority reasons, that will be something that the tax office does need quickly.
I'm currently using a system called GovReports, which you can lodge multiple annual payment summaries.
Yeah.
It's a private institution, it costs no money, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I can't see why the ATO can't sort of...
Well, look, I can tell you when it comes to dealing electronically, the tax office, that's a big thing of their resources to do that. And I know this issue is causing problems, grief for BAS agents, it's causing grief for the tax office because manual things take us so long to get the system, and someone might get a payment summary pre-filled, which is really the aim. Pre-filling is for the tax office as being the greatest thing that's happened. You know, just on pre-filling, it used to be with interest that the tax office would have $100 million worth of interest not shown in tax returns. With pre-filling, that's dropped 90%. Because people might forget not to put interest in, they won't take it out once it's already in. So, you know, the pre-filling reports and everything like that for revenue purposes for the tax office is probably the greatest thing that's happened. So, electronically, and you think, why does the tax office want to do this? Well, for their own purpose, to do things electronically, it's a lot better for them. And that's why I think they're working hard where you can get all these things done electronically.
When you have a BAS agent as a client, like I'm a company and I've got a BAS agent looking after my BAS for me, you as a client get access to your information online or not?
If it's lodged through the BAS agent portal, you only get what goes through the business portal.
So you've got your own portal where you can actually have a look.
Well, yeah, but what you do through that, once you use a portal, you can change things that go in through that portal. But the business portal and the tax agent portal and the BAS agent portal are different.
Yeah. But you can view the same information.
No, I don't think you can because it goes in on a different portal.
More information.
Yeah. Righto, now I'm just going to cover some compliance issues. So the thing that we rolled out for tax agents is about property is a very big issue. the big issue for GST, and when I did this for tax agents, 95% tax agents have never made an increasing adjustment for GST purposes. The big area for property means that there's a lot of developers out there, and unless you have a client, unless a tax agent's got a client who's a developer, they don't probably really know about this. But what happens if you get a property developer? They make new residential premises, they go to sell them, and then their circumstances change and the property market drops. So instead of making a taxable supply, they treat it as an input tax supply because they start renting it out. If you change your circumstances, you have to do adjustments under Division 129 for that component of the time that you're renting out that particular property. And then when you sell it, you still have to treat it as a taxable supply. Now the tax office, all those developers who are making developments, they claim GST credits for months and quarters and quarters and quarters prior to selling. The tax office keeps a record of all those people, right? They've got these people where you've claimed $50,000 worth of GST credits, knowing that you haven't made your sales. But down the track, 2 years down the track, the tax office goes back to that developer and says, where are those, why haven't you made a taxable supply yet? And there's all these circumstances where we find that people aren't accounting for their sales of new residential premises. And the tax office has got some property teams who are looking at this. So in that particular circumstances, we've been letting tax agents know about making increasing adjustments if you've got a property developer who changes the circumstances and starts renting out property. But for GST, it's probably one of the most difficult things that you have to do about making increasing adjustments. But once again, if your circumstances change, when you look at your calculation sheet for GST, there's an area there to make adjustments. And many people here made adjustments. Not by, an adjustment is where the circumstances change. It's not a mistake where you've done something incorrectly. So you can make an adjustment as a result of a change in circumstances. So it's a very big focus of the area where you change the circumstances of those particular applications. So you might have a property being available for sale, but it's being rented out in the meantime. So it would really happen if you have clients who are property developers. Now selling property, there's another area that in GST about the margin schemes. People know about the margin scheme? Few do. Right, the margin scheme is quite technical, and they've made some changes on the margin scheme. And just to explain it briefly, there's a big advantage where if you sell a property on the margin scheme, rather than treating it as a taxable supply, you only have to pay GST on the margin, which is your purchase cost of the land or whatever you've purchased and your selling price. So you get the difference between the selling price and the purchase price. Get the difference in 1/11 of that is the GST. So for a big property developer, it can mean that you're paying a lot less GST by using the margin scheme. So the margin scheme you can only use if it's a GST-free supply, which means someone wasn't registered for GST. And you could also do it if you use the going concern provisions or sale of farmland, which are also GST-free. They made amendments where now you need to look at the transaction prior to make sure that that wasn't a sale of farmland or a sale of going concern. Because the margin scheme is designed where you buy a property off a normal person who's not required to be registered. What happens is all these registered people are using going concern provisions to get property back in so you can use the margin scheme. So they've made some big amendments there to the margin scheme. Now property, and as I said, we rolled this out for tax agents in the last few months. Property is very difficult because there is the margin scheme, there's GST, there's capital gains tax, there's income tax, there's a whole range of matters relating to property. It's difficult to find. So now if you've got any issues on property, there's a thing on the website called a property pathway page, which means if you go into property, it will have all the components of property that you might actually need. And once again, if you have a client in property, you think, well, that's their issue. But if you went to the property pathway page, you could look at a lot of other things that might be appropriate for that particular client. So there is a lot of information there that's available on property through a property pathway page. So what we've also done is that we've got a particular area there for BAS BAS agents to give them information on anything that's happening with GST. So we provide support through BAS agents through the BAS agents section on our website. There's webcasts, there's newsletters. There's a BAS agent newsletter, which I would hope most BAS agents have subscribed to. And once again, that will give the information, especially from that administration side of things, about those particular areas that they're hoping to enhance through the particular system. Now, the GST and the cash economy area, it has been a very big focus of the tax office, and the cash economy is an area where we do have a specific focus on. Now, what the tax office has done is, in the last 2 years, they've introduced what's called a benchmark project. So have people heard of the benchmark project? Now, what the tax office did, they've got, currently when I last looked, 106 industries. They look at your business benchmarks. And look, I've been a tax auditor for most of my career in the tax office. When you audit people, you go and find out what they don't cheat on. And what don't they cheat on? What do they overstate? Their expenses. So you look at expenses, you mark up and you work out what the sales figure should be there. So the benchmarking project, the tax office has got particular industries. They've gone through, looked at how those particular industries operate, and give people in that particular industry an idea about how they should be actually showing for their cost of goods sold what their sales figure should do. Now, if you were under the industry benchmarks, the tax office sent you a letter. So there was about 100,000 taxpayers got a letter, and really the letter was about reviewing your particular circumstances to make sure you could justify why you might be under the benchmarks. So the benchmarking project was more about record keeping, and what we found that most people who were under the benchmarks had poor record keeping. Now, about those 100,000 cases or letters, the tax office data matched those 100,000 taxpayers with other information from, for example, people who'd spent a lot of money on assets. So if you've got luxury cars, boats, that sort of thing, you were under the benchmarks. Then they'd ask that particular person to justify where did the money come from to purchase the large assets. The big one where the tax office picked up money was because of AUSTRAC results. So money going out of the country. If you're under the industry benchmarks, it's surprising the amount of money that you weren't showing in your sales tended to be very close to the amount of money that you were sending overseas. Right, so the data matched all those particular people who were under the benchmarks. But if you have got clients who were under the benchmarks, and there's a lot of good reasons. The fact is, if you've got a good reason to show why, you've got a client who only works 3 days a week now, so their figures and everything have changed, there's no problems with that happening. But they need to show the records about why things have changed. So, especially for you as BAS agents, it's important that you've got clients who are under benchmarks to make sure they have got good records to justify their particular situation. Now, the GST...
Just on that, if it comes up that we have a client that is under the industry benchmark and they get a letter, we're just recording pretty much what they give us to record. Is there any ownership on us if it comes up that they have been cheating in the cash?
Oh, well, no. Well, if the client is doing the thing incorrect, you're operating on the information that they give you. I think what happens if you've got a client in that circumstances is you say, look, the tax office looks at the benchmarks and this is what they need for your industry. So what we would say is, there's information there that some clients need to have a look at. But look, most of them would be notified because they would get the letter from the tax office saying that you're under the industry benchmarks. So it's just a problem, it's just a situation where they've got to make sure that they've got records to justify the true nature of their particular business.
Yeah, but it's more if they're dodgy, like...
I don't know what you want me to say.
If you you sort of see that they may not be quite calculating everything, but you're doing what the client has asked you to do.
Well,
the tax office comes back and says, yes, you owe us this much cash. Does that come back on the service provider for not bringing that up to your attention?
Once again, your professional stance is about you operate on the information given to you by a client. So your obligation is to to do your work regarding the information that's given to you by a client. So, that's what I'd say.
Can I just add on to that too? Lee, I actually had an auditor ring me from the taxation department, and one of my clients, he changed my partnership to a sole trader, and so his income was cut in half, and so of course they came and said what was the problem. And then from there, everything was fine, but from there they took the work to an auditor, and because they wanted to know, what is this cash draw business? And they asked me questions and said, how do you know that when he's out on the road he doesn't, sell this stuff and do this stuff? I said, I don't know. Well, you should know, you're the bookkeeper. I said, oh, okay. So it is an interesting question, and I think that you probably need to contact the Taxation Practitioners Board and to look about your due diligence care, and because they will, I suppose, if they sue you and say, well, I didn't know, they could come back. So I'm just sort of, as part of bookkeeper's role, I would say that you do need to be careful and make sure your professional indemnity is there, because if you just take what your client gives you and say, okay, I don't think that's enough for bookkeepers. I think you need to be able to give them systems and standards that you work by as well, and that's what we're going through now at the moment because of that particular comment by the auditor. So,
it's more of an issue. With tax agents, I've probably could have dealt with tax agents a lot longer because they've been going a lot longer than BAS agents. But there's situations where a client, for example, capital gains tax, doesn't tell them that they've sold an investment property or an investment or something like that. And what happens, the tax office start an action and they find out that there. And then they go to the client and say, you didn't tell me about that. And they go, oh, we didn't think the tax office would find out. Now, the issue is that you can only operate on the information they give you or the questions you ask and the information you give. If they don't provide the information, with the safe harbour provisions and everything, you're required to operate on the information you are given. But once again, that's the critical thing about, when you look at these things when they're dealing with professionals, are they not giving you all the information to get that correct result? And that's the issue that you've got to look at.
Can I just say that as bookkeepers, most bookkeepers are not geared up to actually put out a contract to their clients, and I would highly suggest that everybody in this room is a bookkeeper when they're getting a new client. They do what the accountants do, and that is they send out a letter that indemnifies them within reason, which says that they can only work on the information that they're given. And if you're in doubt at any time, you put it in writing to them and tell them that you suggest that they go to their accountant or you suggest that they go to another professional, so you are indemnified. That's the way to do it, it's just in writing.
I had a particular case with a hairdresser who was questioned, actually rang a telephone, so she was quite shocked, because hairdressers aren't into bookkeeping, about the amount of cash that she was actually taking. And I'm sure all of us ladies go, and not many of us would pay cash at the hairdressers. Her cash is so minimal, and it's picked up on the audit, and she's an honest person and everything is done up front. But I actually seen, after she had the audit, and the explanation given over the phone was quite fine for the tax office, but that they had reviewed the benchmark of the cash. Because some of these benchmarks I think are a bit old.
And the thing is, as I said, those benchmarks update yearly too when the tax office gets new information. So none of the benchmarking project is not fixed. As I said, I've only seen 106. There could
so
be
don't
more.
be scared if you see these benchmarks coming, because most people pay by credit card, and that's the way.
There was another one they did look at. The amount of sales comes, and I only saw the one for restaurants and cafes. The higher your particular food bill is, or the amount of things you charge, the higher your percentage of credit cards would be. So cafes have a low percentage of credit cards, while restaurants have a high. And but there's an average price on your turnover to work out how much you should pay on average by credit card. Look, the tax office is a data-making organisation. And as I said, it's just a guide to which ones are more worthwhile putting resources into. Now, a GST compliance program, the tax office got a lot more money in the last budget. So it is doing a lot of checking for those particular people who are registered for GST to first of all make sure they're lodging. They're also making sure that people claim the correct amount of GST. Now, the very big area that tax office is looking at is people claiming false GST credits. So last financial year, there was 28 successful prosecutions by the tax office for GST refund fraud or GST credit fraud, which means you create a false invoice, you claim the GST credit, you either use that to get a refund or you use it to offset that against other tax debts. So the tax office where people will do that for claiming incorrect GST credits, because if you're doing it, you're usually claiming it for those GST credits over $82.50. Where you do have a tax invoice, people are falsifying or creating tax invoices falsely, which is quite easy to do with a photocopier and the change of typing and stuff like that. So there was a very big focus about GST credits, and I said the tax office successfully got 28 people who did things incorrectly. They very much focus on those particular businesses where they're in a net GST credit situation. So your property developer, I've got a friend who's a developer, what happens every month, every quarter, he lodges his activity statement, he's in credit, the tax office will ring him up and say, can you give us your 3 largest invoices? You know, just to check that it's bona fide, and they'll go back to that supplier to make sure that that's a correct company for a legitimate company. So GST credits is a very big area of the tax office focuses on. People who are net GST credits, they keep a record of them. And then down the track they should see where they're paying tax on some particular taxable sales down the track. So as I said, the tax office has got a lot of prosecutions. Every one of those 28 prosecutions, people receive a jail sentence. So for deliberate fraud, you know, where you created a false invoice, then in that situation, the tax office, when they prosecute you, will go to jail because it's deliberate. If you did that thing about didn't make your adjustments for Division 129, if you went before the court, there's no way you'd go to jail because the judge couldn't even understand it. But deliberate fraud is deliberate. You know, this is the high level of our compliance program that we actually look at. If you make a mistake because it's very difficult, as I said, it's harder to take action against those particular people. They'll say, well, we'll just get it right, we'll go through and find out the tax they should pay. But there is a very big focus. The 28 last financial year is a lot of fraudulent cases. But once again, you've got people, and the tax office keeps a record of you because you're in credit because of your GST. And that's where they've got a very big focus on those people in the refund situation. Now, pay-as-you-go withholding. So, for the particular situation of lodging your payment summaries, the tax office does want these things going in electronically, so your system about having things so you can do this electronically is critical down the track. As I said, we're pre-filling, and I think 5.8 million payment summaries are pre-filled this year, 5.8 million already. It's important to get things in electronically as quickly as possible. So that will be something that I can see as being a priority for the tax office. Righto. Now, the very big issue, employee versus contractor. Now, I actually worked as a tax inspector back when I first started in the tax office. And actually, I used to come to Newcastle, we only had 6 people, it was a regional office when I was a tax inspector. So the difference between employee versus contractor. Now, tax office has got an area called employer obligations. This has become a very big problem for the tax office. Back in 2000, when GST started, the pay-as-you-go instalment started, people were supposed to be in the pay-as-you-go withholding system as an employee, pay-as-you-go instalments as a contractor. No problem. Now, in the last few years, we are seeing more and more people becoming contractors when they are employees. And a lot of employers are trying to get their employees as contractors by saying, go out and get an ABN number. You're a business because you've got an ABN number. And they're targeting very much people from non-English speaking backgrounds, people who are new school leavers, people who have got a good understanding of the language. So it is a very big problem for the tax office. And what the tax office has got on the website is what's called one of their contractor decision-making tools. So on the website, if you go into this area about employee contractor, there's a decision-making tool. You can go through, fill in a series of questionnaires, and it'll work out if that person is an employee or a contractor. And there's a lot of, when you look at the particular rates, tools, and calculators, the website has got a lot of products that will be there for your particular assistance. So once again, this is a difficult area. The big thing the tax office has done is a program called Level Playing Field, for making sure that people who are employees are paying the right amount of tax, and that people are getting an advantage because they're treating the person as a contractor while you're treating them as an employee. Now, what the tax office has done with these people who are contractors and have got ABN numbers, being the tax office, they've data matched those ABN numbers to see if they've got a tax file number and if they're lodging a tax return. And what we found is a lot of those contractors are not lodging tax returns. So they're getting their money at a higher rate, not getting tax taken out, and not putting it through the tax system. So the tax office is losing a lot of revenue by those particular people who say they're businesses but are not lodging the tax file numbers. And you might remember when GST first started, all those barristers who'd never lodged the tax return before, or when the tax office data matches the ABN numbers, they look for those ABN numbers to make sure that they're also lodging through the tax system or the income tax system. So it is important to look at those particular situations that people are treated correctly. Now, with the employee contractor, early this year there was a case called International Call Centres, where a call centre, an Australian call centre, had their particular people as contractors. And what happened, the tax office said no, they're employees, so the case went to court, and the court ruled in the tax office's favour, which is pretty unusual. Our history is that we've lost more cases than we've won. But we've won that particular case on the basis, and the big thing about someone, are you an employee or are you a contractor, is the control test. So do you work under their particular control? And for a call centre, you're telling someone to go and do this particular shift for, from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's under the control is the critical thing that you need to look at to work out if someone is an employee versus a contractor. And look, there's a whole range of cases that have gone through previously, and what happens really, the court just went through and rehashed all those particular cases and looked at what the control was in this particular situation. Employee versus contractor is not such a big issue for the tax office as it is for other areas, so workers' compensation, industrial relations. And then you've got the issue for the tax office that if you're covered as an employee under workers' compensation, well, why aren't you an employee under the tax system? So the tax office is working very closely with work cover to see those particular people who've got, I don't know if they're payees or employees, but those employees who are covered under work cover, but they're not covered under pay-as-you-go withholding. So there's some very big issues. Because work cover, I can tell you that employers find work cover a lot more daunting than they do the tax office. It's a bigger issue to deal with that. But then the tax office will look at it and say, well, if you're covered as an employee under work cover, why aren't you under our particular legislation? So employee versus contractor is a very big area that we are looking at. Has anyone got any questions on employee contractor? As I said, the website is a good place to get a start. Yes.
If you get a decision from that decision tool, are we able to use that and go to tax and say, well, this is what we've based out?
Well, usually if you fill out, as long as you fill out the questions correctly, and that comes out with a particular decision, then in those circumstances, that could, you can look at that as a basis for establishment on the facts of those particular matters. I mean, every case where you've got to make a decision depends on the facts of that particular case.
What is the criteria for PAYG, superannuation and workers' comp? All got different criteria to whether they're employer or not.
Well, because, for super guarantee...
They're all government organisations. Why can't you put under one frigging rule?
Let's look at the tax... Well, let's look at the tax office for employee contractor and for and the difference between pay-as-you-go withholding and super, there's a different definition for super guarantee than there is for pay-as-you-go withholding.
As there is for workers' comp.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But the workers' compensation is similar to the super guarantee, which is
It's not the same.
No, but it's an extended definition. We said if you're providing primarily labour, then in that situation, that's covered from pay-as-you-go, it's covered for super guarantee obligations. So it's quite possible that you've got employees, you've got contractors who are not covered by pay-as-you-go withholding, but you have got a super guarantee obligation for them. Many employers will get around that by super guarantee for the extended definition only applies to an individual. So if you're employing a partnership, a company or trust, then those extended definitions will not happen for super.
But I'm talking about myself, I'm an individual, I'm
Yeah,
working with clients.
Well, but exactly because there's two sets of laws, and the pay-as-you-go withholding rules are different from the super guarantee rules.
Dean, I think the issue was more a case of we need to take that up with the politicians who make the rules, rather than the ATO who's the policeman interpreting it.
But
That's the unfortunate reality of it.
people get around the rules for super guarantee by only employing you as an entity, not as an individual. You know, the large building companies in Sydney have been doing it since super guarantee came in, so you can't get a job as a contractor as an individual.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just how they use the rules for their particular benefit. But yeah, two different sets of rules, so there's two different decision-making tools. There's one for pay-as-you-go withholding, and there's one for super guarantee also. But the decision-making tools are a good basis to work out the particular decision. Right, now technical issues. Now, just to let you know about the GDP uplift factor. Now, usually that's amount where it increases by 8% each year. Because of the fact of the global financial crisis, they've reduced that particular amount to 4% and the government legislates each year. So the amount that goes in for those people who are using the GDP uplift factor for their instalments, that amount doesn't increase by the amount that it used to. Exempt foreign employment income. Now this is a very big issue because of the 2009 amendments. So when you look at exempt foreign employment income, the very big issue you've got here, if you're dealing with this particular area, is about residency. So really what happens is that if you've got Australian residents, they pay tax on all their income from all sources. With foreign income, if you have got somebody who is a non-resident, then they only pay tax on their Australian earnings. So there's a difference there between looking at those circumstances. For income tax purposes, you need to look at the domicile test and all those sort of things to work out where the person is a resident. But, you know, for BAS agents, the issue about the pay-as-you-go withholding obligations for residents and non-residents. Reportable employer super contributions. Now, this has been a very big problem because the first year it came in, a lot of the software picked up the super guarantee and the salary sacrifice amount as one particular payment. Now, reportable employer super contributions is added to income tests for tax offsets, for Centrelink, for child support, for family tax benefits, all those sort of offsets. So what happened is the tax office had to fix up 2,300 amendments, and there was over 20,000 employers who incorrectly, with the software, put those particular amounts together as one payment. So you probably know that the very big popular thing that's happening now, especially for people over their 40s, is salary sacrificing and superannuation. So you get a high number of employees who are salary sacrificing. It's important that the super guarantee and the salary sacrifice amount are separated, and it's only the salary sacrifice amount that is recorded on the payment summary. So it was a very big mix-up in the first year, and once again, those cost for the tax office to fix up a mistake like that was fairly large. So it's just about making sure people are aware that these things get separated in the future. Paid parental leave was something that, when actually I did this at the beginning of the year, I thought this was very easy because when I went to the website, there's no information on the tax website. then when I looked at it, I thought the paid parental leave was paid by the Family Assistance Office, so I didn't even think employers were involved at all. But with paid parental leave, from 1st of January 2011 to 30th of June 2011, the Family Assistance Office paid it. From 1st of July, the employer has to pay it. Now, it's still not on the tax website because this is an issue that's a Family Assistance Office measure. So, there's different rules. If you are an employee and you want to know if you are entitled to paid parental leave, you need to contact the Family Assistance Office. And the Family Assistance Office for employers, that if you've got an employee who's seeking to have paid parental leave paid, then you have to provide information to the Family Assistance Office. If you have got an employee who's entitled to paid parental leave, you have to give them acceptance. You have to give written acceptance, you have to give your ABN number, you have to give your bank account, and you have to give the employee's usual pay cycle. And then you provide that information to the employee, and hopefully what happens, the Family Assistance Office sends the employer the amount, and then you give it to the employee. Now, you tax that under the pay-as-you-go withholding rates. There's no separate label on the payment summary. You can salary sacrifice the amount of money that you're receiving through paid parental leave. The gross amount and the tax you deduct will go on the pay-as-you-go summary. And if you've actually received more, that employee is no longer with you, or you don't know where that employee is, then any excess amount you need to send back to the Family Assistance Office. Now, you have to provide an employee a record, and that record is under what's required under the Fair Work Act. The record keeping for paid parental leave is 7 years. So that's quite surprising with the tax office record keeping being 5 years. For some reason, this isn't the tax office. You need to keep your records for 7 years. Now, the employer's obligations is that paid parental leave is not subject to super guarantee, so it's not ordinary times earnings. It's not subject to payroll tax, workers' compensation, any other taxes. So it's just something that goes in. The only obligation for paid parental leave is that if you pay it out, then it's pay-as-you-go withholding obligations. And as I said, when I rolled this out at the beginning of the year, tax agents, their only comments when they did some feedback sheets was, well, why are we doing this? So it's a government initiative, and that's how it actually operates.
Well, that was my understanding. A client has a male commencing his parental leave in January, and we don't have to do anything. FAO are going to send him the payment directly, bypass the company, and we don't have to do a thing.
Well, look, if they want to go directly through that, or see, one other thing can happen. You can have an employee who's got a number of different employers. So once again, if they've got that particular amount that they're entitled to, they have to choose one employer. But they can also choose not to have the employer do it.
Okay.
In that particular circumstance. But look, this thing is, it's just like the Child Support Agency. If they send you a form, you have to fill out that particular form. Here, if the Family Assistance Office sends you the form, you have to fill out the form. And that's the particular obligations that you've got as an employer or as an agent.
I looked this up on the ATO website yesterday. We were doing for a guy who netted $977 a week, and the gross payment was $581.
For paid parental leave?
Yeah. Unless we're looking at the wrong thing. But we discussed it, and I ended up saying to the lady, you need to ring Family Assistance and work through the thing with it. But that was what the impression we got. And it was, well, why would you do it? You might as well take 3 weeks annual leave. So I don't know, just you probably check that when you go through it yourself.
Yeah.
It's my first time to come in that I had to do it.
I know, as I said, the issue is if you've got a problem, the Family Assistance, paid parental leave is a Family Assistance Office initiative. So if the employer's got an issue or the employer's got an area, you need to contact them about that. Now the flood levy, once again, this is a national program that we roll out, and as I said, some of you might have clients who are in Queensland. Look, my colleagues in Queensland, it's been a very big issue for them. But once again, agents can have clients who might have been in this particular area. So there's particular areas there in the flood levy. If you've got income of less than $50,000, then you're not subject to the flood levy. Or if you're one of those particular postcodes that have been affected, then you're not required to pay the flood levy. So there's a particular table to look at, which is factored into all the calculators, but that's the particular basis that you look at for calculating the flood levy. And if you want to know who is exempt, then there's a particular area of those particular people who are exempt because of that particular classes of exemptions that qualify. But as I said, my colleagues in Queensland, this is a very big issue, and they would do the BAS agents in Queensland because they'll have a lot of clients who have been affected by these particular measures. And there's a link there on the website if you do want to know anything about the flood levy. Now, some of the products the tax office has got to assist you or your clients is a small business assistance program, and the tax office has got some very good computer tools. Now, our small business assistance, there's two big stakeholder groups, which are tax practitioners and BAS agents. The other thing the tax office works closely with is 300 business associations. So we prefer to deal with associations and agents rather than the individual member, because if we deal with an association, then we get all their members as a result of dealing with one person. So we work very closely with those particular industry associations to give them the information for their clients. And once again, we can specify that if there's a particular issue relating to that particular client. We still do assistant visits, and we still on the website, if you look at some of the record keeping workshops and other seminar programs we do for small business. We also do a fairly active one on rental properties and self-managed super funds too. So if you want to go to the seminars area, you can see that program, which probably is not up for next year yet, but will probably come up at the end of this year or beginning of next year. Now, there are some very good things that we have got on our website. So there's a record keeping evaluation tool where a business can go through, fill in a series of questionnaires and evaluate their record keeping system. The next one is a program called a business tax calendar. And once again, this is a product, and these products have been put together because business say, look, we want assistance to know if our record keeping is good. We'd like a calendar that's electronic so we can come and work out when our due dates are. Now, the business calendar is an online product that you can print it out, or you can have it electronically, and you can show that on the 21st of February, you need to prepare the December BAS, or something like that. But you can put reminders in, and you can do the calendar, and you can have those things in the calendar so you can have your due dates or anything that's important there for your tax obligations. You can also put in other things that you want too, but calendars are a very good way of promoting reminders. So once again, if people have got a lot of obligations, they can put those different obligations in a series of questions, and the calendar will automatically show you the dates that things are due. So that's something that sometimes if you've got calendars, or especially for your own purposes, if you want to know when you've got to do something, the Small Business Tax Calendar is a product that's available. And there's another new product that's been out this year called Issue Business Tax Ready. This is important, especially if businesses have expanded or changed or done something different. You can go through, assess your record keeping situation to see if you've met your particular obligations. So there are some online products that we really do want businesses and agents to look at and use. Now, where to get information? So importantly, the BAS Agents homepage, there's some products there. The online services is a critical area to look at. And once again, when I said there's that property pathway page, there's also a really good area about calculators, rates and forms. So you can look at those particular products there. They put together to assist businesses and agents with the record keeping. So you can look at that. And then for this particular homepage for BAS agents, you've got your BAS agent newsletters, your broadcast, your tips and those particular information. So the website is a very good link for you to get particular information. And once again, if you do want to subscribe, or if you haven't subscribed to the Bass Agent newsletter, that's something that is important that we to do look at. I think the newsletter people are in actually the Newcastle office. And the feedback, I think it comes out 3-4 times a year. It's never more than 8 pages because the tax office has been told if it's more than 8 pages you won't read it. And we won't put something in this newsletter that we put in the last one. So it won't be GST mistakes newsletter after newsletter after newsletter. So it will be timely in putting new things in to make it a fresh newsletter. So, there are a lot of products there, and once again, you've got your own particular area on the website to give you information that the tax office does want to give you. So, you can look at the website. The agents get a priority access to the call centre. So when I do these for businesses, they say, every time we have to ring up on the 132866 number, we're there for ages. But agents get preferential treatment when they ring up under the agent number, so you get priority queuing, I think it's called. If you want information, publications, and look, there's more and more publications you can't get now electronically. So there's only a few you can get. There's only a few you can get in hard copy, like the rental properties, like the self-managed super funds, capital gains tax guide, those sort of publications. The publications that there's not a big demand for are only available electronically now. So most particular publications are only available electronically. And importantly, we get about 2,500 people reporting tax evasion information a month. So that 1-800 number 06062 is an important number because look, the integrity of the tax system is about people paying their right amount of tax. And look, people don't like paying tax, but if you know everyone's paying their fair share, you don't mind it. You can not pay your tax and you can get like Greece. We know I want to pay tax so they can't pay, which is about the credibility of the tax system. And people involved in the tax area need to make sure that everyone's paying their fair share of tax, and otherwise not putting the burden on too few. So if you do know things that are happening there, or if your client knows something, we prefer the client to not adapt the practice that they know the person is doing, especially that level playing field. If someone's treating employees as contractors, the tax office wants to know that. They want to treat that employee correctly. We don't want you then starting to treat everybody as contractors too. So it is important if people are doing things wrong. One of the things, I've spent a lot of time in sales tax, and people used to get a competitive advantage by creating different wholesale prices. A level playing field is very much about people not getting an advantage through the tax system. And if you're not paying tax, then you don't get an advantage through the tax system. So it is very important if you don't have any evasion, you do let the tax office know on that 1-800 number. Now, Tax Practitioner Board information. Now, the Tax Practitioner Board is separate to the tax office, righto? So it is not the tax office, even though it's situated in the tax office. But the people are separate, and they manage this particular area, and there is an attempt to make this a degree of independence. And actually, when we did a big rollout for this, most of these particular areas, some of them Tax Practitioner Board did this particular presentation. But the issue is that we've currently got about 15,000 BAS agents to renew their membership. There's a number of different options to look at. There's standard and transitional. You've got to be a fit and proper person for both options. There's an incentive to renew early using the standard option, and if you complete the application, you get up to 9 minutes with extra registration. Education with the standard option, so there's 2 educational requirements, so your certificate 4, your higher award for a field of bookkeeping, and there's also other Tax Practitioner Board approved courses. And once again, as I said, I teach at TAFE, and the Process Business Tax is now called Process Business Tax and BAS and IAS, so they've actually made the subject there so people can go do that particular subject to meet those particular requirements. Now, with relevant experience, you need to look at that. And look, once again, if you have got a issue here, then it's not no point going to the tax office. You need to take this up with the tax practitioner board about your particular circumstances. But there's two options about relevant experience in the past 3 years, and you must be able to demonstrate that particular relevant experience. And the board does make those particular decisions. If the people can't show those particular experiences, then they might they might allow you to get that particular registration. Now, types of experience. So once again, you need to be able to show that. Now, if you've worked previously under a registered tax agent or BAS agent, so you've got experience under that, that's usually the best particular experience. But otherwise, you can look at some other particular experience you've got to meet that particular requirement. Under the transitional option, if you're providing a BAS service, you can demonstrate a competent standard over a period of time. If you're unable to do that, then you can need to look at making an application to the tax practitioner board, and usually then they'll give you a reasonable period of time to be able to produce that particular experience. Now, the regulatory framework, so the tax practitioner board has got a specific level of legislation that it deals with. Now, there's sanctions against agents who do things incorrectly. So one of the big things the tax practitioner board is not only register agents, so tax agents and BAS agents, but they also look to take action against unregistered agents. Now, especially for tax agents or unregistered tax agents, because I know, as I said, they work in personal, they very much look at the, I'm just trying to think, I should say, the ethnic newspapers, where they advertise that you come in, pay $2,000 and get an upfront tax return. Right? Now, with the tax office having 20,000 employees, they've got people who can read all those particular newspapers. So what happens is the tax office goes through, reads that newspaper, makes a copy of that, and then we usually contact that person by their details of using their phone number, and then find out what particular services they are providing. So the situation about finding unregistered agents out there is something that the tax practitioner board has got a big team that actually looks at. So it's important that particular tax practitioners and agents do the right thing. Now, there's other things too that you have to be aware of with being a BAS agent, and that means that you have to be a good character, which means that you have to have your tax return up to date, and you have to have paid any outstanding tax. And some agents, but this is the same thing for tax agents, and the only thing I can say that I really haven't got sympathy for people because I'm in a worse situation than you. So people who are professionals dealing in the tax field have got a higher level of meeting their requirements to work in that particular area. So I can't work in a tax agent if I don't lodge a tax return and pay, and you as tax agents or BAS agents can't work in the field if you haven't got your lodgement up to date as an individual and paid your particular amount of your tax liability. So there is particular standards there that you need to look at. Righto. Now, if you do need any questions, as I said, the individual issues that you have that I can't answer, you need to look at them on the tax practitioner board. They've got their own website, which is www.tpb.gov.au. You can see that all our stuff is a different colour. The tax practitioner board has got a beautiful green colour. So they have got a particular area that deals with your registration process. And once again, as I said, they are trying to look at independently to the tax office. So they're about administering the agents and 15,000 BAS agents and I think about 25,000 registered tax agents. Previously it used to be a body that operated in each state. So with this new legislation, it's now a national board that operates Australia-wide. Righto, now has anyone got any questions? Yes.
As a business, if you've got an accounting package, why do you need a BAS agent?
Well, look, the whole aim of when BAS came in is you don't need a BAS agent, you don't need a tax agent, you should be able to do it yourself. But there's people who are professionals and you know, they want to do what they do good, and that component of their business that they don't really want to do, they get some professional doing that. So that's why there's a field there for BAS agents and bookkeepers, because you know, a lot of people don't like that component of their work, but it is a critical part, and that's probably why there's a scope there for people to do bookkeeping and be a BAS agent. Right, well look, I thank you very much for your time. As I said, Bronwyn too is very important. As I said, we've got a whole range of information through the website, through the call centres, through a seminar program, but you know, even the important thing is that the tax office still is looking at that individual level through the relationship managers, and they deal with the professional areas, the professional bodies, or people who are members of the professional bodies, because of the online services and the products and things that are out there that we want you to use. So, as I said, all these sort of things that you might have difficulty with, that's why the tax office has got those particular areas. So I do encourage you to make contact with Bronwyn, as I said, an advisory visit to look at what is available there for the tax office, or from the tax office, can be beneficial for you. And look, as I said, I've got no doubt down the track, I would see the time where you probably as a BAS agent will not be able to do things in paper. Now that's the way the tax office is going when they're dealing with those particular areas. So, you know, it's probably a good time, as early as possible, to get on and start doing things electronically and with our online service. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope to see you.
Well, thank you very much, Craig. We can't give Craig a present tonight because that's bribe. So,
I don't want to go to the ICA.
So thank you very much. It was very pleasing to actually have a tax office representative with a sense of humour. And thank you, Bronwyn, for coming. I'm sure there'll be a few phone calls there to say, come and have a look and help me. And yes, that's very good. Okay, so Sue.